All right, welcome everyone. We're here. We're back with the world's greatest podcast, the Pod Podcast. We're here with Chris from Austin Pretzel Company. I'm excited about this episode. I've been eating these pretzels pretty much on repeat since I first had them a few months ago. I've been making the rounds around the country with some great buyers, taking a look and introducing them to the product. But I'm excited to learn more about it. I'm excited, Chris, to hear a little bit of the story and what got you into it. Pretzels aren't new as a category. There's plenty of pretzels out there. I think what you guys are doing are unique and different, though, and it's a truly innovative twist on it. So happy to have you, and really interested to hear what got you into this business in the first place.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, for sure. I guess sort of to define how I ended up in this spot would be a misspent youth. A lot of time working in kitchens, I sort of grew up in the restaurant industry, pursued a chef's career, have always been, associated but interested and challenging the food world. I broke away from the culinary side of things, burnt out, young, had enough, and was sort of taken over to the dark side by my Cisco Foods sales rep back in the day. I was getting frustrated, and we became friends as he was visiting me regularly and said, "Hey, I got a great idea." And I was like, "Are you kidding me, man? I don't want to get into that side of the world. I'm a chef. I want to be, creating." So I guess that sort of mentality has never really left me. But yeah, fast forward a few years, worked for a few different great companies, had a lot of autonomy sort of as my career developed, being involved in multiple facets. Learned a lot about production, back end stuff, logistics, compliance, how to create product from inception all the way to sell through, some of the branding stuff. So I really have had great experience and sort of a full circle. I don't know if you want to call it an apprenticeship in all things food, but I mean, I've touched all pieces of it, which was really cool. And I think what inspired this project was, like most people, they sort of get stuck in a rut. Maybe there's a ceiling. There's no opportunity to move any further ahead unless someone retires in a company. And I was just sort of complacent, tired. I had been doing some traveling at this point, and a friend of mine had met me down in LA, who's now my business partner today. I was working on an acquisition for another company I was doing some consulting for, and we sort of stumbled upon this product. This company was making toffees, making toffee covered things for a gift basket business. And just so happened the day we were going to play golf, we ended up going by this facility for whatever reason it was. And we're hungry. We wanted a snack. And I said, "Hey, you got to see this stuff. Like, he's got all these toffee covered products and these unique toffees." So we can't take all the credit for sort of the inception of it, but we thought, okay, this is something really cool. What can we do with this? We haven't seen anything like this in the marketplace. And I think, like you mentioned, pretzels isn't a new category. I mean, typically what you see is new product introductions. Maybe somebody's trying to make it gluten free or non GMO, or trying to put their spin on it that makes it relevant to today's marketplace and consumer. But what's cool about this opportunity is we took an age old toffee recipe and tumbled a butter toffee pretzel essentially, added some flavor profiles to it, and came up with this like wow factor product. And much like you said, it's really hard to stop eating something like this because it's got crunch, it's got a
Yeah.
little bit of savory, it's got that sort of appeal that checks all the boxes when you're craving something. I mean, hey, at the end of the day, this isn't kale salad. We're not trying to be the next synthetic food product. We're catering to a market that is not scared to indulge once in a while. And a lot of people love a salty, savory, sweet snack. And I
Yeah.
think we've just hit the mark combining all of these sort of attributes into one shelf stable product.
So there, it really was just a pure one plus one equals three, right? Like there, it wasn't even so much trial and error. It was just, this is a great toffee recipe. This is a good pretzel recipe. Let's marry them together and then sprinkle in some pixie dust of flavors and
Yeah.
poof, right? You've, it's like
I mean, sometimes,
serendipity.
yeah, sometimes when people ask, they're expecting this romantic brand story, like, we traveled for 40 days in the jungle and found this tree that had this flower, and we harnessed the power of this root. But ideally, it wasn't like that. And as much product development as I've been involved with throughout my sort of career, yes, there are companies that specifically go into that room and put their heads together and try so hard to create the next big thing. Whereas this is just one of those happy organic mistakes. Now, again, I can't take all the credit for this. My business partner was pretty instrumental in this. Our manufacturing partner was pretty instrumental in this whole sort of concept. So it's been an exciting sort of engagement thus far. And I mean, we really worked hard on this for a couple of years to make it make sense from a branding perspective, from okay, how do we drill down on our flavor profiles? How do we take the best of the worst and sort of set that aside and take the best of the best and go to market and create some excitement around it? I think we've done a really good job of that now. And I was a little hesitant to take the risk, as was he. Both career guys, long term in our fields. Did we want to, at 40 years old, step away from sort of security and really go head first into this and take a big risk? And the more people we put the product in front of, and you can attest to this, the response is always, why have we never seen this before? Like, where can we get this? Why hasn't somebody done this? And it's
Yeah,
been,
it's really it's like those are the best ideas though, right? The best concepts are the ones that are so simple and it's just why hasn't someone done this before now? It's almost like you're looking over your shoulder and like, are you sure that no one's done this? And then once you're sure that you actually are the first ones doing it, you know that you've struck gold.
yeah, to be the sort of pioneer in the category is very cool, especially in the retail space. I mean, obviously there are some unique gourmet culinary things that exist in the food service world, maybe in food production world, but not at a retail capacity. But yeah, we it's fun to be the pretty girl, essentially. It's fun to be the product that everybody's kind of got on their radar, maybe doesn't know about it, but it's heard about it. I've had some organic sort of inquiries from big banner buyers that have just sent me to our generic sales email like, "Hey man, my name's so and so from the one of the biggest players on the market. Like, I went and saw your product in this tiny little grocery store. Like, how do we make this work? How do we get this to happen?"
That's
Alongside that, I got to give you and I got to give Pod Foods some serious credit because you're a veteran in the industry. I'm a veteran in the industry. We know how challenging it can be for brands to establish those base metrics for a distribution partner to even look at them. And although we do play with the big boys and it's sort of a necessary evil sometimes, I got to say Pod Foods has been an absolute Ferrari to work with in the
Thank you.
space. And I
That's
mean,
I
go
appreciate
ahead.
that. No, it's
Yeah,
it's if it really comes down to whatever business you're in, whatever part of this industry, do you want to be a follower or do you want to be a leader, right? And if you want to follow, just look at what's already successful and me too on
do
that
that.
bandwagon, right? But if you want to innovate, you've got to be able to identify the brands that are going to be successful before they've become successful, right? And so that means not just looking in the rearview mirror of how much did you sell last year. Anybody can do that. It's what is it about this product that people are going to want to buy? And there's just a lot of value in that. And I think, that's our business model, but that's what you're doing too as a brand founder. You're trying to figure out what people are going to buy. If you knew for sure that they were already buying it, then that's not innovation.
Yeah, and I think the misstep for a lot of companies too is that, and I've seen it before, you have so much money to work with and you try and maximize that spend. So you're trying to be everything you can be to everybody at the same time. And what my partner and I, David, really drilled down on was like, we only have so much money to get this off the ground. How do we maximize our spend but not be everything to everybody, and say no to some people at the same time, because we want to do this segment and do it really well, and then we'll look at trying to accommodate all of the sort of wish list ideas out there. We're doing road shows right now in the US, and it's been sort of interesting to be on the front lines of that, having that data readily available, having the consumer interaction, finding out what really excites people about the product, the packaging, the font size on the packaging, like what is really steering attention, or what are some of the roadblocks. And it's sort of interesting to capture all of those pieces and then take that back to the team and say, hey, we've done a really good job with this. This sucks. We got to throw it out. And a lot of people have been asking us, like, hey, why don't you do a yogurt cover? When are you going to do a chocolate cover? When are you going to offer savory items? And it's like, we're not trying to compete with anybody else. Much like you pointed out earlier, we're sort of a pioneer in a niche space. So we're just going to keep the train on the tracks for the time being, and see where we can ride this thing to.
Yeah, there's hundreds of chocolate covered and yogurt covered breads. I mean, when I worked at Whole Foods 20 years ago on my lunch break, that was my lunch, right? Was yogurt covered
Go
pretzels.
through the bins.
So,
Love it.
so I think, there's no innovation in that at this point. There was then, but not now. And I think what's neat about your product though is that it does have that trifecta of the sweet, the savory, the crunchy, and that does lend itself to seasonality and LTO type flavoring offerings, I would think, right? So your
Totally.
core concept could be applicable to a dozen different flavors on a rotating basis or an in and out basis and still be true to the concept, I would think.
Peter, you're hired. We could use the resource.
Yeah.
Exactly. And to speak a little bit further on that, we, myself and my partner, have sort of business partner, have sort of unique reach in different arenas. So both having sort of sport culinary backgrounds, to take something sort of unique and innovative like a snacking item and propose it to sports teams, to propose it to sport facility, to partner with people like the PGA, like hockey, like music industry. You know what I mean? There's so many sort of, I wouldn't call it low hanging fruit, but there's so many value propositions that we can propose. And like you said, we can offer limited time SKU profiles, flavor profiles. Obviously, we don't want to be like everybody else and do the pumpkin spice in the fall and things like that, but we have the ability, because we're pretty lean still too, to be really creative and to take a little bit of risk. One thing sort of uniquely we offered to 7-Eleven Canada, who we're launching with come December nationally, was an exclusivity on a 3 month for new flavor profiles that we come to market. So now we can almost guarantee that we'll have, an opportunity with 7-Eleven in Canada and use that as sort of a pilot or a test when we want to try some weird and wonderful things. So very, very sort of fortunate, grateful
That's
to
exciting.
have a great team and a unique product offering. But again, it was just there is no romantic story here. It was just, a silly opportunity, sort of a dumb luck
Yeah.
happening.
Well, you're on an upward trajectory already. I'm looking forward to seeing maybe we can come back and do a sequel podcast in two
Yeah,
years and check in and see how you're doing. I think it's definitely one of the higher growth brands that we've had our eyes on this year, and looking forward to seeing it grow into 2025 too. So
yeah, we are too.
thanks
We're
for
excited.
joining. Thanks for jumping on. Hope everybody got a
Absolutely.
lot out of this. This is fun.
For
So
sure. Go check us out, Austin Pretzel Company on Instagram, www.austinpretzel.com. Thanks, Peter. Appreciate the time today, man. All the best.
thank you.